If you've ever thought Romantasy was just girly escapism, wish fulfillment, or fairy, you're not entirely wrong, but you're also not seeing the whole picture. In the summer of 2023, my local book club read a little book called A Court of Thorns and Roses. Maybe you've heard of it? I'm not being melodramatic when I say that it completely changed my life. I made new friends, attended a fantasy ball, went to Scarborough Fair for the first time in my life, and I got a freaking magic sword tattoo. So when I moved abroad and I made friends here, I did what any sane person would do. I hosted a girls' night where I gave a full-length PowerPoint presentation on why they should read Romantasy too.
Only one bed, I guess you have to share it.
Oh, okay.
Highly recommend, by the way, so much fun. And I've been encouraged to redo the presentation in this format so you all can enjoy it. So buckle in and prepare to have your minds changed about Romantasy. If you grew up loving any of these movies, congratulations, you like fantasy. And if when you got a little bit older, you liked things like Twilight and The Vampire Diaries, those are basically modern romantasies. Now, when I was young, I inhaled fantasy. But there's just one problem with traditional fantasy. I want you to watch this clip and tell me if you can spot what it is. And Eowyn may be a badass, but first and foremost, most traditional fantasy is written by men, for men, with male main characters. And that brings us to one of the biggest differences about Romantasy, and that is the female main characters. Now these are badass women, written for women, by women. They're strong and they're powerful, but that's not all they are. They're three-dimensional. They have their own hopes and dreams. They have friendships with other women, which we'll get to. And the stories are about them. These are women who are dealing with deep trauma, and they're working their way through that while battling external conflicts. But they're not doing it alone. They're doing it with the power of friendship. These are girls that pass the Bechdel test. They support each other, they help each other feel seen and accepted for who they are. I feel like the media that millennials grew up on often was pitting women against each other. And that's not to say that there's never any female antagonists in these stories, because there definitely are, but sometimes even the female antagonist becomes a close friend. But watching these ride or die friendships blossom really helped model what positive, healthy female friendship looked like for me, and has actually improved the way that I approach female friendship in my own life. And it's not just the women either, the men have healthy friendships too. I know that so much of feminism is based off of how women are harmed by the patriarchy, but men are also harmed by it. How often do you hear about men not being able to talk to their friends about their feelings or what's going on in their world? They have these really shallow, surface level friendships that don't help them grow as people. But when you meet the Bat Boys and you see how they support each other, I think it sets a really heartwarming example of non-toxic masculinity. And it's not just the friendships that heal, it is also the male main characters, or as I like to call them, the hotties. Let's just take a moment, shall we? Now, these pictures do not tell the whole story. Just looking at the rippling six-packs doesn't really tell you who these men are on the inside. And I think that's one of the biggest appeals to these book boyfriends, as they are known in the community.
Sorrows, prayers.
I mean, sure, it doesn't hurt that they're 6'4", but these are also emotionally supportive men who love to see their women shine. They're strong protectors, but they're not overly protective. They value and respect female autonomy, and they want her to grow into the best version of herself. I did a really fun exercise with my friends where I had them pick out their favorites, sight unseen, so that whenever they go back and eventually meet the characters, they can maybe get a little laugh out of it.
After you start reading them and you know who they are. So, Alex, tell us why you cannot go for this guy with the hard eyes here.
With the hard eyes here.
Yes.
Because he's got feminine energy, which I like. That's not what I don't like. What I don't like is that he's got like privilege, pretty boy, haven't suffered a hard thing in life.
He's never been told no.
Everything's been handed to him, makes me want to punch him in the face.
I'll be
ACOTAR.
mad if he's the good guy. He's gonna be like the best. He's gonna be Angel.
And we can't talk about the sexy book boyfriends without talking about the #1 most controversial topic about Romantasy, the smut. Yes, it is present in the books. However, I saw someone do a breakdown on this, and for the most popular Romantasy books, it only accounts for about 2 to 3% of the total page space. So it's not like this is Skinamax. There's plot for days. But when there are intimate scenes, they are loving, they are consensual, and they value female pleasure just as much, if not more, as male pleasure. When Game of Thrones does it, it's art. But when a woman writes it, and women like it, well, we can't have that now, can we? In case you can't tell, I think that's complete bullshit. You'll see over here a list of tropes. And this is one of the fun things about book talk and discourse around the genre. You realize that most of your fantasies are not really original thoughts and actually have names. And being able to identify which tropes are your favorites helps you find more books that have those tropes. It can lead you down a rabbit hole of less than literary masterpieces, but no shame. I heard a quote the other day that every book is either a mirror, a window, or a soft place to land. And sometimes you just need a little bit of fun escapism. But there's tropes like enemies to lovers, where they just hate each other in the beginning and they yell at each other and get in each other's faces. And you're like, wait, are they gonna kiss? Or maybe not, if it's a slow burn, where you delay that gratification for an excruciatingly long time and it just keeps you turning the pages. Maybe they get to the end and there's only one bed. I guess they have to share it. That's the one bed trope. There's grumpy sunshine, forced proximity, fated mates. Find what you like and don't be afraid to experiment. Sex is just another part of the human condition. And just as it's important to have healthy models of friendship, I think it's just as important to have healthy models of what intimate relationships look like between two loving partners. All that being said, to say that that's all there is to Romantasy is willful ignorance at best. It has all the same elements as traditional male fantasy, such as magic powers. And just magical fantasy worlds in general, a place where dragons exist, or giant talking spiders that you can trade years of your life for in order to get your hands on some spider silk. There's danger, there's battles, there's faraway places, hand-to-hand combat, poisons, assassins, fire-wielding goddesses. Oh, we completely forgot to talk about the whole fairy thing. Okay, so fae are kind of like vampires who don't suck blood. They're just a little bit animalistic in like a sexy way. Sometimes they have little fangs, sometimes they don't, and they're immortal. It's just cool and fun. Who doesn't want to imagine how badass they would be if they had magic powers? And I think that's something that appeals to both men and women, but women especially. I know for me personally, I am on the smaller and weaker side of the spectrum. I always have been. And so yeah, I fantasize about what it would be like to be more physically powerful, to be able to fight back, whether that be with hand-to-hand combat or sword or wielding fire, to have that feeling of self-assurance, like no one can mess with you, and to have confidence in whatever situation you find yourself in is an appealing thought. And it's not just on a one-on-one basis. There are massive battles in these books. And that's because most of the time, they're fighting against authoritarian regimes. There's a lot of dark shit going on in our world right now, isn't there? And most of the time, I feel pretty damn powerless to do anything about it. So the idea that one person or a small group of people can band together and take on the system, call it escapist fantasy if you will, it's nice to have at least one outlet where I can act out those fantasies. And I think that's what stories have always done for people. They give you just a little bit of hope and courage to keep facing the horrors, because those horrors just keep on coming, don't they? And when you find these books that give you so much hope, that emotionally devastate you and make you feel seen in a way that no other media has done before. And then you realize that this is a popular genre that hundreds and thousands of women and men have also deeply related to. You realize that there's a whole community of like-minded people out there that you can join. There's fan art, fan theories, fan casting, fantasy fashion accounts, video essays, podcasts, fan fiction, fantasy balls, reading retreats, and some Friend Fair crossover. It's been so fun to have this genre that is so popular be a safe space for women. I mean, men have their fantasy football and Marvel and I don't know, like just sports in general, I guess. Or like, you know, most fandoms ever made. But this is a space for the girlies. So if you love badass female main characters, emotionally supportive hotties, healthy friendships, healing from trauma, magical adventures, overcoming the odds, and fandoms, then you're gonna love Romantasy. It is basically a cult. one that I am happy to be a part of. And it's like Pringles. You read one, you just can't stop. Sarah J. Maas in particular, who is the queen of this genre, has like 15 books that you are required to read.
Why did you do this to me? Out of love.
If this video convinced you and you want to know where to start, I got ya. You will notice the aforementioned Sarah J. Maas dominating this list for good reason. We talked a little bit about A Court of Thorns and Roses at the beginning of this video. It is Anyways, it is known as ACOTAR in the fandom. So if you hear that, now you know what it's in reference to. It also started the whole A Court of Blank and Blank trend, which you will see rampant throughout the genre. And yes, it's a little played out now, but this was the OG, so it gets a pass, okay? So I don't want to give too much of ACOTAR away because there are some big twists and turns, but there are humans and there are fae, and they live on opposite sides of a magical wall. On the other side of that wall is a massive fairy kingdom and a lot of adventures. There's deep lore, found family, healing from trauma, fighting oppression, all the goodies, just done in the best Sarah J. Maas way. Now, the first book, it's good. It's cute. I liked it. Most people like it. I wouldn't call it a masterpiece. That's reserved for the later books. So if the first book even just got a passing grade from you, I beg of you to continue reading the series, because the second book and fifth book in particular, I am not the same person I was before I read those books. And that's a series that is still going. We are anxiously awaiting the sixth book, but that's part of the fun, right? The next series I would recommend is the Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. Most people refer to it as the Fourth Wing series based on the title of the first book, Fourth Wing. But Fourth Wing takes place at a school for dragon riders, where students are fully expecting that they may at any time. The weak are weeded out, baby. But our main character, Violet, has what's basically EDS, or hypermobility. She is small and fragile, and her joints get dislocated all the time. But that doesn't stop her, because she's a badass. It's really nice to see some disability representation. The last series that I recommend that all Romantasy lovers read is the Throne of Glass series. Now, for me personally, and I have also heard this from other readers, this series took me a few books to really get into. I mean, they were good, but they just didn't hook me and suck me in the way that ACOTAR did, for instance, until a little bit further down the line. But then once it did hook me, well boy, did it hook me. There's a lot less spice in this series, but the world feels a lot bigger. The cast of characters is a lot larger. I would say the emotional devastation by the end hits way harder, but we also have to keep in mind that ACOTAR is an unfinished series. So who knows where we'll be by the end of that one. I hope that this changed your mind about the genre and that you'll give it a chance. But if not, I'm gonna keep on reading it and writing it, but we're not talking about that yet. My goal for this channel is to be able to talk about women's media, which yes, includes books, of course, but also TV shows and movies. Because so often I find myself watching something, reading something, and really wanting to do a deep dive into the characters, their psychology, why they're making the decisions they're making, how the outside world shapes their decisions and who they are. And I'll go to YouTube and I'll try and find something, and it'll be a surface level summary of the plot. So if those things sound like your cup of tea, then please stick around. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. All right, that's it. That's all I got. Bye.